Приветушки-плюшки, я Тори, и мы продолжаем проходить Enderal. Идем быстрее разговаривать с Трелем. Расскажите свои секретики. Ты там прям отличное место нашел. Ну вот прям прекрасное.
All right, let's keep this brief. My family discarded me as a child, and no, I don't blame them. I was weak, frail, and always ill. It was unlikely that I would see 5 winters. Ah, nonsense. Keeping me would have burdened the entire family. What they did wasn't cruel. It was necessary. Cruelty is something else. Cruelty is inflicting suffering when it's avoidable, or simply for pleasure. Sadist scum like Carlian, lust murderers or mad cult leaders who stop at nothing to get their way. Not even the corpses of children.
Хорошо.
I don't know. I've forgotten most of it. I am, thanks to Letho. It must have been 6 winters back then, whereas I was 4 or 5. I don't remember. He found me in the gutter and took me in. I'm not sure you realize what that means. Surviving alone is hard enough as it is for an urchin child. But taking care of someone else, it decreases your chances even more. Letho didn't care. He saw me, he let me sleep in a pile of hay he called his bed, and shared his bread with me. I still have no idea why he did it. I don't know. He never wanted to talk about it. Not even later, in the orphanage. In the sewers. It's full of robbers and thieves and other scum nowadays, but back then, there were lots of secret corners and tunnels for a child to hide in. The good old days. It did, but there were a limited number of beds. New beds only became available if an orphan reached the age of 12 and was sent back onto the streets. Or, of course, if one died. What they had was a list. You could have them put your name on there, and every time a new bed became free, the orphans would be called into the alley, and the list was read out aloud from top to bottom. Strange feeling, as you could imagine. When Letho was 8, and I was about 7, we both got lucky and got a bed. We spent 5 years there, and 1 moon before the abduction by the Relata, shortly before his 12th birthday, I swore to him that I'd come with him once they put him back on the streets. Now, I don't know if you can understand this, but the thought that he'd be out there while I slept in my bunk bed,
Да все я понимаю, что
I
ты.
just couldn't accept it. What do you think? He called me an idiot, and rightly so, because I was still the frail little kid I had been when my parents abandoned me, and that ugly cough that I had would still come back every time winter returned. Still, had push come to shove, I would have followed him. Nothing and no one could have stopped me. Peaceful. It sounds strange to say it after all that's happened, but if I'm being honest, the years in the refuge were the only truly peaceful time in my life. Of course, it wasn't a picnic. Food was scarce because the orphanage stayed afloat only through donations, and we had to work a lot. You know, clean, cook, tend to the garden. But still, we had a home. Or at least we thought we did. Back then, I didn't, but in retrospect, I should have. For example, there were those twin sisters. One morning we woke up and they were gone. Shagun wouldn't say a word about it, but we thought it was because they'd died and she was in mourning. Now I know better. Yes, me and Letho. I still remember that day as though it was yesterday. It had been an exhausting day and my cough had come back. Shagun put out the candles and we fell asleep. Then, all of a sudden, they were there, right in front of our beds. We screamed. We struggled. Tried to flee, but it didn't matter. Uncle Nalek was there to help the masked men to calm us. Shagun and the other adults, they just stood by and watched. Can you imagine? They just stood there and fucking watched. You know the rest of the story. They put sacks over our faces and threw us into a carriage, like cattle on their way to the slaughterhouse. Then, darkness. The next clear memory I have is awaking on a pile of bodies in the corpse pit. No. Of course, I looked through that corpse pile as well as I could, but there was no one there. No one. It was real, you know? Letho and I were there for each other through it all, and he was my best friend, my brother, my family. Damn it, he was the only one I ever had. And now he's dead. His skeleton's probably rotting somewhere in the sewers, if the father's experiments left any of his body at all. I don't know if you can even remotely understand how much I hate this person. He is evil incarnate. It's that simple. What do you think I am? An idiot? Of course I looked for him. For weeks, months, fucking years. But nobody had seen him or even knew who I was talking about. For them, he was just another dead orphan in the caves. Backup. I don't believe in backup anymore. Just look around, will you? This thing we call our world. What is it if you take away the glitter? A ring? A fucking arena? They all just care about their own ends, and they are willing to do anything to see them through. Lie, steal, murder. And now? Now they're talking about the red madness, as if things hadn't always been the way they are now. Friendship is a privilege for the young and foolish. Letho always believed in the good in people. And look where it got him.
Ладно, будем рисковать. Что теперь?
What is it to you?
У меня уже есть джеспар. В чем такого я буду сказать, чтобы не напороться? Ладно, ну блин, я не знаю. Ну пусть.
What?
Ах
And
ты,
this seems like the
крыса.
right time and place for you to make advances.
Ой,
Damn it,
ой,
have
ой.
some fucking dignity. If you ask me, there's nothing more superficial than love. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Imagine a man with terrible burn scars on his face. Well, what do you think? Would it be that man the women dream of when the bards sing of a knight in shining armor coming to their rescue? Bullshit. The love you're talking about. It's a simple equation. If you're attractive, rich, or powerful, you might get to enjoy it. If not, have fun. That's one of the few teachings of the Relas I actually agree with. Like a brother. That's different.
Все то was другое.
That was by far the most stupid thing you've said tonight. Yes, I've put a lot of thought into these things. That doesn't mean I don't stand by my opinion. Quite the contrary.
Мне кажется, я ему скажу, он тоже мне в жопу пошлет.
Yeah,
Ну ладно.
because you're a decent enough canvas for women's and men's stupid fantasies. Go ahead. Put your head over an open fire for a while and see how much real love you're getting after that. No. Just one of the most banal feelings we're capable of. Yeah, you'd know.
Да, знаю. Какой он душный, я не могу.
It doesn't? Then fate has a bad sense of humor.
Все,
Broke me.
пожалуйста.
Trust me, I'm quite intact. If anything, it opened my eyes. You know, being on my own, as you put it doesn't bother me.
Можно на одном месте посидеть?
I know how it must sound to you, but if you're alone, you're invincible. The worst anybody can do to you is kill you. And since death is the end of all feeling, it doesn't matter anymore. Friends, family, love, they leave you open, exposed. For me, things are simple. If the father kills me, I have failed. But at least there'll be no one to mourn my loss. No widow, no children, no friends. A clean cut, as though I never existed. I'll see when we get there. There is no other person like Letho. And even if there were,
Всё-то ему не нравится.
the time for these kinds of things has gone.
Бу-бу-бу.
Yeah, either way, we've wasted enough time. As I said, it might be hours before the father decides, or if we're unlucky, weeks or months. I'll send out a messenger if I learn something, and should anything unusual happen, just meet me at my hideout. I'll be there for an hour every day before nightfall. Until then. Do that.
Хорошо. Что у нас по отношениям теперь с ним? Какой он душный, я не могу. Так, тут же это 45. Ну, один раз подлижем, и все будет нормально. Теперь надо отсюда выйти только. Как-то. Так. Значит, и что мне делать? Куда мне идти теперь? Просто ждать. Наверное, опять какой-нибудь курьер прибежит. Но я не знаю, ну он такой... У него свои убеждения, конечно, он такой душный. Так. Я тут решил, значит, подождать. У себя дом поспать. А тут такие сюрпризы. Ну-ка. Странный сон. Я могу умереть во сне? Сохранить смогу. Что это? Что это за херня?
Dawn is coming. Seek the first seer.
Так. Я не ожидал такого. Пойдем с Трейлем болтать. Я ему, конечно, расскажу. Надо все-таки обратно с ним. Опять ему подлезать. А, блин, мне же на полночь. Так, это должно быть где-то часов 11, наверное. Короче, блин, я так долго ждала, заколебалась, прическу поменяла, пока ждала.
Interesting. I was just thinking about you.
Интересно.
Never mind. What is it? What?
А, я еще про это хотела спросить. Я думала, про сон расскажу. Ну ладно. Это я уже знаю, это я уже спрашивала.
Called you? What do you mean? Did he send a messenger? Psionics. Figures. No, it wasn't your dream. It was an illusion. He must have planted it in your head while you were at the temple and simply triggered it last night. A mental puppet play, if you want to call it that. No idea. Probably some kind of passphrase. Well, go see him. You'll see what this is all about then, but I'm pretty sure he's considering you for the mission. And this is his last test. In other words, our plan has worked. Correct. And, thank you for filling me in on this.
Отлично. Вот так. Сначала обидели, потом... Ну, как я и говорила. Ну-ка. Где это? 60, ну вот, все отлично. Пошли. А, у меня же, кстати, этот есть. Свиточек. Где тут они? Вот тут. Телепортация в храм Релат. Все, я не хочу сейчас это долго искать, не хочу. Полетели. Ой, я же забыла, надо же переодеться, они ж там это все странные. Все, идем. Идем говорить. Ой, кто это тут выкинул? Идем говорить, что я все видела. Все знаю, все видала. Что там, рассвет возгорается было? Это.
I thought my instructions were clear. Wait until you hear from us. A dream.
Да.
That. Oh, I understand. Then go see Brother Sorrow at once and tell him the same thing. He will lead you to the Father.
Я не буду задавать лишних вопросов.
Go to the tower, deeper into the mountain. At the end of the hallway, you'll find stairs ending in a wall. Now go. The Father must not be kept waiting.
Че, подождет. Столько лет живет, ничего с ним не случится. Ладно. Куда мне сюда? Куда он там сказал? Что-то в гору. А, вот. В гору, куда-то там. Здорово. Ой.
No. Go.
Чё ну?
I understand. You may pass. Descend. You'll see.
Так, там в его этой Короче, у него в комнате должно быть... Сейчас. Этот все нукает. Как-то... Вот. Не отметилось. А так. Тоже не отметилось. Ну ладно, сейчас уберу. А, подождите. Ха! Другое дело. Капец, у него реально такая комната. Это вот нормально, он считает? Что-то написано. Где-то я еще не нашла. 2.
So you received my message. Good. Come, take a seat. I will be with you in a moment.
Ждать еще. Он, значит, ждать не должен, а я должна. Так сила. Да уж. Комнатка тут у него. Просто 10 из 10. Давай, рассказывай, что хотел.
Good to finally meet you in person. I would introduce myself to you, but you already know who I am.
Ты отец.
That is correct.
Не будем выпендриваться
The
сейчас
first
лишний
seer
раз.
has already told me about you. He said that you and Brother Wrath recovered the lost pages, and also that you are, how should I say, unusual. He did not lie, as I see now. You do indeed have something peculiar about you. Tell me, how do you feel about Brother Wrath, Farrell, as you call him?
Что я должна сказать? Ну, он мне нравится.
Be that as it may, the first seer had nothing but praise for you, and suggested that I consider you for our
Ты
expedition.
хоть рот открывал,
And
что
I
ли?
have, provided that you are still interested.
Да.
Good to hear. The formalities first. You will receive 250 pennies in advance.
Это, по-твоему, щедрая
and another
плата?
250 if the mission turns out to be a success.
Вообще не
A
щедрая
generous
плата.
pay, as you no doubt realize. I assume you know that it will be dangerous. Nonetheless, I would like you to understand the background of this undertaking fully if you are to work with us. Come.
250. Так щедро, так щедро.
I present the human body, a simulacrum.
Ты из кого его собрал?
It's not. As I said, I want you to understand. Does the name Manit Dalgalang sound familiar to you? The man who left his body. He was one of the former Grand Masters of the Order, a righteous man, but also of a very reclusive nature. It is said that Dalgalang had always been a little peculiar. In the few records that are left of him, he once described how he never felt as though he belonged in this world. Thus, he made freeing himself from this sense of estrangement his purpose in life. Well, one day he vanished, just like that, in the bright light of day, during one of his meditations at the Eye of the Gods. Even though there were observers, the Order didn't record his vanishing in the chronicles for obvious reasons. According to them, Dalgalang simply disappeared on a pilgrimage. I believe so. He succeeded in freeing his spirit from the vessel of his body, and the strange occurrences that happened after confirm my theory. His mother, for example, insisted that he visited her in spectral form at the death feast, and told her that he was sorry. His servant, who was the closest thing Dalgalang had to a friend, heard his voice when he laid down flowers at his pathstone. Or the keepers, who saw a ghost meditating in his former laboratory at night. All coincidences or phantasms, you may say, but to me, it is clear that Dalgalang achieved his goal. He managed to separate his soul from his body. He achieved transcendence. I suppose you could say that, yes. Dalgalang was among the first humans to realize how misguided we are and how little of our potential we actually use. When I first heard his story, I instantly recognized myself in him. In particular, his fascination with the idea of overcoming our fleshly nature. I was enthralled and made this idea the purpose of my life, which finally led me to found the Relata. Frankly, I still find it baffling how few people share this quest. All they care about is the satisfaction of their carnal desires. They are so proud of what separates them from a pig, and yet they achieve little else in their lives. Eat, copulate, die. And all it would take to show them what their minds are capable of would be a glimpse into their dreams. Either way, I digress.
Вот именно, давай уже говорить, что тебе надо.
Well, are we not freer in our dreams than we could ever be in waking life? We can have our bodies take on every shape there is, and time and space are meaningless. Imagine having this kind of freedom in reality. Exactly, and that's where you come in. As it turns out, the secret to transcendence was hidden in the lost pages of J.L. Tannyson's book, where he describes his initiation ritual in the Room of Paintings. That is correct. But I have had the pleasure of talking to some of them over the centuries, and was able to convince them to divulge their secrets to me. It's not some kind of room. The Room of Paintings is a force of nature, one that has the power to change you in a way that far exceeds the ability of normal magic. Either way, I will spare you the details. What you need to know is that we believe the Room of Paintings to be inside a temple we excavated over the past years. And that is what this expedition is about. You and the other mercenaries will venture into its depths and establish a portal for Myra Lame and me to step through once you found the room, where we will finally sever our minds from our bodies. Correct. It will prevail. Only the Relame who have proven themselves worthy will ascend with me. The rest of them will stay behind with the first seer, who will take over the mask. Then, when the time comes, they will follow us.
Ладно, я не буду уже у него спрашивать. А то что-нибудь заподозрит.
What it is or who built it, I can't say. Only that it must have been an ancient civilization. And by ancient, I mean one that existed long before the Pyreans. The Black Libra, the cult the Butcher of Ark belonged to, merely used this place to conduct their rituals of initiation. In the Frostcliff Mountains, that's where you will go. They could, but the temple is dangerous. Only if you let them eat you. According to my research, 4 groups need to enter the temple simultaneously through its 4 individual entrances. These groups will be made up of 2 mercenaries and 1 voice each to guide you. Once you've found the temple, your mission will be considered a success, and you will
Можно
be
мне уже
paid.
пойти?
Any questions? I don't know. Finding that out is part of your mission.
Хорошо.
As soon as possible, after this conversation has ended, you will make your way to the excavation site and wait for my arrival. Since you've already worked with Brother Raph, you will form a group with him and another mercenary. I will choose myself.
Так это тоже хорошо.
Do you have a map? Show me. Good. This is where you'll find the site. I recommend you take a Myred to the Frostcliff Tavern and walk from there.
Окей.
You will.
Все, могу идти, наконец-то. 250 рублей мне дал. Вот щедрый, конечно. Там не пойми, что нас ожидает, а вот только 250 рублей. Ладно. Выдвигаемся, конечно же, прямо сейчас. Ждать я больше не намерена. Только надо сначала отсюда выйти. Может, даже, знаете, в честь такого дела и на Мираде пока прокатиться. А то я все телепортируюсь, да телепортируюсь. Господи, сколько мы с ним разговаривали. Да. Так, где тут...
Something you want to tell me?
Ничего тебе не хочу говорить. Где указатель? Я хочу знать. Я, как всегда, хожу, ищусь, ничего не могу найти в этом подгороде вонючем. Я не люблю пещеры. Что я теперь с ним могу сделать? Так, ребятки, встретимся с вами уже там. А то тут... Подождите. Неожиданно время кончилось. Ой, простите, забыла совсем. Встретимся в следующей серии и поедем. Наконец-то уже делом займемся. Сколько можно болтать, ходить. Уже надоело. А что делом заняться? Всем спасибо за просмотр. Подписывайтесь на канал, на мои соцсети. Нажимайте на колокольчик, чтобы получать уведомления о новых видео. Ставьте лайки, пишите комментарии. И всем пока.
Hello.